Welcome to Selective Imagery. Welcome to a video titled Wood Storks and Friends. So let's talk about wood storks for a second. They're 42 to 44 inches tall. Their wingspan is up to 5 feet. An all-white body with a bald, nearly black head. Looks like aluminum foil that got beat up with a hammer a little bit. And the wings are black as seen in flight. Black legs and pink feet. And they got a down curved bill. But when they're in flight, they have an iridescent color that you see in the black feathers. Sometimes you get tinges of green and other colors in there, typically green. So it is kind of neat to look at them when they're flying to see if the light's hitting it just right. You can see some other colors in that black wing. They lay 2 to 4 eggs. Both the male and the female incubate the eggs for 28 to 32 days. And then for the next 2 months, after they hatch, both the male and the female feed the young. Obviously very, very common in Florida and South Carolina where I live. They might go into North Carolina, obviously, too. A little sprinkling further north, but pretty much South Carolina is the limit of the range. You know, you may see them in a few other spots, like I said, but it's not typical. And then, of course, they go back to Florida. So we're going to start with some pictures and then go into some video and then talk about some other friends that we've seen in the last couple days. Hope you enjoy. Well, we'll just start off with some images of them just hanging around the edge of the bank, walking over to some reeds. This one's actually was chewing on a stick. It's a nice effect with the water. That's a juvenile. Now we get into what they eat. You got worms. You got fish. Sometimes they drop them. But they go down without any problem. And they do eat larger fish too. It's not just the smaller ones. And they will eat blue crabs, and they will rip all the legs off and crack them in half and eat them. They hang out with other friends, whether it be pelicans or spoonbills or groups of their own kind. And yes, they do fly as well. And here's a video of the wood storks. And this one is a rear view, pun intended. But you'll see once in a while how it'll shuffle its leg. It'll look like it's like trying to dig a little bit. And that's a normal behavior. It's trying to stir up the bottom. Those two got a little stirred up when they met each other there. But he's trying to stir up food from the bottom, and you'll see that leg movement every once in a while. And it's not the only bird that does that. Other birds do that as well. Snowy egrets, several other species, they like to see if they can kick up some worms or move a fish. And basically it sticks its mouth in the water with the bills open, and if it bumps into any kind of prey and it gets between the bills, it just clamps down on it. So as you see, we switched birds and heading back in the other direction, and There's that little leg movement there. I mean, they aren't the prettiest birds in the world, but they are very interesting to watch. And overall, they are very social, but they will steal food from other birds. I mean, it seems like if you're a bigger bird, you're always trying to steal from a smaller one. So one of the friends is a mute swan. It's the second largest swan. Tundra swans are the largest. These are the next ones down from that. So they were hanging around at the park as well, swimming around, enjoying things. Here's a series of short video clips, and you can get a good sense for the size of them. And for many years, we only had one mute swan that was all by itself. So it was very, we were all very happy to see that it's now with a friend. So there are two that were here at one time. So that was really nice. And obviously they eat grasses that's in the pond. Sometimes they curl up and they just float in the water. There's the second one there. And the other one finally catches up. And they go and they take a quick swim together. I like it when they shake the tails back and forth. I don't know if that means they're happy. I'm not sure. So once they take a little stroll together in the water, then they decide, well, maybe we should get something to eat. Not that they pull up to a restaurant or anything, but there's an abundance of aquatic life, plant life for them to eat. Now we'll move on to another friend. So here we are with a white ibis at low tide on the marsh side, followed by a few shots of a great blue heron. Then we have a few images of a tricolored heron walking around the edges, and this is on the pond side now. And here's a series of shots of white pelicans attempting to fly off. They're always fun to watch. You know, instead of the Three Stooges, you got the Four Stooges here. And eventually I get a picture of one breaking off from the pack. And here's a series of shots of one coming in for a landing, which is another thing that's fun to watch, because it's like somebody that's on a set of skis and just glides to a stop. We're going to have a very short video of them feeding here in really bad light. It was early morning, but the sun was beating down on them across from the pond, and it was very bright. Now this is a small group, and they kind of scatter. They break apart, and then they get back together again, and then they break apart. Last year there were groups that were more like 8, 12 in a group, and they were all lined up, like one right behind the other, and they would just do like a synchronized you know, dipping of the head in the water and lifting it up like a sewing machine action, and they'd all be doing it at the same time. So I haven't seen that yet this year. They seem to be a little bit more fragmented and willing to separate from each other for whatever reason so far this year. And some of the other friends was, we had one osprey that showed up with a piece of the wing missing. These ducks flew off because some eagles decided to fly by and scared them all. And this is a new friend. This is a horned grebe. Never saw one of these ever at the park. There was only one there, and the few people that were with me today had never seen one before either, so that was kind of neat. And here a spoonie's just flying in and tucking itself in the corner on the pond side behind some reeds where you really can't ever get any pictures of them. They sometimes do that, I think, on purpose. And the last video is going to be of this Merganser, this Hooded Merganser group. And you're going to see some aggressive behavior by a female. And that's going to happen twice. So the first time, she kind of goes after the male, and then eventually they end up tagging up again, and the male kind of gets his revenge. So let's just watch this for a few minutes. There's the quick altercation with the female getting in the male's face. Now that same female is going to try to start trouble again. Okay, so the male is going to go around and come towards the foreground a little bit, and the female is going to start heading towards him on the right hand side. And here's where it gets interesting. She opens her mouth and says something to him, and the next thing you know, bam! Doing my wrestling moves. That was kind of interesting. And then she gets up and flaps her wings and just goes off, and he ignores her and figures, hey, there's a lot of other females in here that aren't giving me a hard time. So it is interesting that there are so many more females than males. I mean, if you had 50 birds, you know, I would say, you know, 10% would be males and the rest would be females. Don't quite understand why it's like that, but it is. So this is going to be the end of the clip. I'd like to thank everybody for joining me again this week. Enjoy life, capture some of it, get out there and get some pictures. Hope you're not going too crazy prepping for the holidays. And hopefully I'll have something for you next week, but with the holidays it might get a little intermittent for a little while, but hopefully not. Take care, everyone. Thanks again.